statutory audit report, GST reports. Okay, so Tally earlier used to give us these three features. Prior to Tally Prime 5, we had the GSTR1, 3B and annual computation. So ideally in our office, what we used to try to do is, we used to go to this annual computation, where if we expand this report, and we can get the details headwise. But now, as 3B and 1 shows, it does not depict the table number here. So table number, we are supposed to see that which data goes where. But majority of the details that have been provided are more or less similar to what is in the GSTR9. Yeah, so what we used to do is, we used to go to the detailed transactions of it. We used to extract B2B related data. Now if we can see from here, we can take the whole data from 1st April to 31st March. We would extract this data into Excel. Similarly, we would do it for other groups, B2C transactions, if there are exports, then for exports, and likewise. So for all broadheads, we had to download this data from GSTR1 on an annual basis. And we try to reconcile what was gone in GSTR1. Now, majority of the times it used to happen that GSTR1, when we download from the portal, we don't get the breakup. We don't get the whole details. We only get the total of it. So other thing what we used to do is, we used to go to month-wise details. If there is any difference in any of the transaction, so we would identify that it was in which month. Like we would download GSTR1 for that particular month, and we would show it that, for example, this is your July 45 lakh rupees we are showing as taxable amount, but in our 1 and 3B, it was around 50 lakhs. So most probably there are chances that somebody, after filing the return, has deleted that transaction, and thus it is not reflected now when we are looking at the annual returns or annual figures. So this was one way of doing it. The other way of doing it is going it through sales register. We are just at GSTR1 currently. So through sale registers also, we can download it annually. In columnar format. I'm sure all of us are using this feature, right? Have we been extracting GST sales registers in columnar format for our compliances? Are we? Yes. Yeah, so the biggest challenge I feel here is that if it is only like here in this case, it is a plain vanilla kind of a setup wherein we only have one kind of a GST rate and only few additional transactions. So it is actually fitting in my screen. But in a lot of cases, the number of columns even goes to Z or something like that. Then it becomes very difficult to concise this table first and then move forward with the reconciliations. So I think all of us would have faced this kind of a challenge as well. Yes. So now if we want to do it other way, in a Tally Prime 5 module or version, so like the suggestions given by Sir Jatin sir earlier, that we take a backup of the data, we do reconciliation within Tally itself. Now this feature, GSTR1 reconciliation that we see here, is most probably from Tally Prime 5. So what we do here is, we would exchange the data. Like Sir had said, we will log into the GST portal from here. We will extract the whole data. So first we log in, we'll get an OTP, we'll log in from here. I'm just showing the steps, I'm not logging in because taking a whole year's data might take time. So I have already downloaded that data in another Tally version, which I will show it to you. And we download the GST returns. Now for this annual filing of returns, we will require 1, 2B and 3B. Okay, and the period will be April 23 to March 24. correct? So we have mentioned the date here and we keep it for downloading. Now once we do this, it is going to take a lot of time to download the data. So what we do here is, I have already have one data which is available with me. I will open that data to show it to you. Yes, yes, yes. Yeah, but because we have to show it here, yeah, I have this data already downloaded here with me. Statutory reports, GST reports, 1. Hmm? It will automatically populate. Like this, like the way sir did it in 2B, it will automatically populate. You will be able to directly see it here like this. Okay, just give me a moment. I will have to change the year. I will change the year. Yeah, 1, 423, 31, 324. Yeah, so if you can see here, this data, so where I stopped in the earlier file, no, here, download GST returns, download, this features, I changed the period and I changed the reports that I required. I selected download. Here, that OTP, once you put that OTP, directly this thing will come. So there is nothing else in between after this. Yeah. So here, as you can see, because we have already processed this data and the working is already complete for 9, but just to show it, you know, we had modified the data so that we can identify what is the difference. Now if you can see, it is showing one error here. So this gives you a matching for all the transactions. So you are not supposed to go individual entry wise and reconcile it through Excel. Tally does it for you. And here, as you can see, the invoice value has been changed. So there can be a scenario wherein post filing of the returns, the details would have been updated, and thus, you know, majority of the cases it happens like that only, that post filing of the return somebody feels that this is not correct, they would manually go and change the details, but because we don't go back into seeing that what has been changed, and when we see it in a consolidated manner, it becomes very difficult for us to identify where there is a difference. So through Tally, it really helps us reconcile the details. Now if we can see, all the below transactions have already been reconciled for us for 40 plus parties. Only 3 parties which are there, which shows as unreconciled for various reasons that we can go step by step and we can see. And here if you can see, still even if it is unreconciled, the values are matching for Pexil and Metro Gift, though it is showing as unreconciled as GST status, but value is matching. Okay, so here when we go, we will have, it will give us a very selected line item like here, because it was the invoice number had been changed post filing of the returns, I mean post completion of that particular month. Thus it is showing as a difference. So once if we modify this thing, okay, so what was the 030, then yeah, we get a matching. Okay, so I am accepting this for now, no. Yeah. So it goes as certain transactions because, as sir said, that it has certain parameters on the basis of which the entry should have been done. But because it was overridden by us, it shows as uncertain transactions, and we'll have to go into the detailing of it as to why this transaction is a mismatch yet. Okay, so usually what we do is we try and match it from here. Yeah, so it is Maharashtra sales only, so it has to be B2B only, CGST, SGST only, sales, yeah. Okay, and there is one feature related reports wherein we get such, wherever we get such differences, it shows us through F12. Yeah, no, okay. Yeah, so here from related reports, I went GST tax analysis. So whenever we get differences like this, we get a idea if there is a tax amount difference, then it would reflect that as per transaction the value had to be so and so, and as per your working it shows so and so like this. It gives us a breakup wherein we can identify what the issue is. Okay, so GST source of data, GST rate details. Okay, so still I myself have not been able to identify what is the नहीं उसका इश्यू नहीं है. ओके ये ओवरराइड आ गया. हाँ हाँ, तो ये मैंने ओवरराइड कर दिया, बट अभी भी वो अनसर्टन ट्रांजैक्शंस में दिखता है. एंड एट द एंड ऑफ इट व्हेन यू नो we are trying to match it, but still if it doesn't match, what we do is we accept the transaction as it is. So what we do is set GST status system inferred and we match it. Yeah, so there are still it is showing, I don't know for what reason. B2B. Okay, so I think maybe I changed the entry post e-invoicing details, that is why it's showing like this. But that should not be an issue because all the values and transactions are all matching. So I think maybe I can give you the reason later on, but yeah, the whole point is that we can reconcile the items from here, and if the whole point here is to say that if we are getting 200, like the voucher count here is 390, so definitely I got stuck, but I got stuck only for one transaction. But if we are trying to do it manually, maybe we will at least be stuck with 100 or so odd transactions, wherein we'll try to reconcile it manually through VLOOKUP or any other reconciliation software that we use, wherein we will even have to, you know, somebody said clear tax. So for clear tax also, if we want to match it, we have to put the data in their manner first from the Excel, then we upload it on their portal, and then we match it. So this saves a lot of time, I feel. And even if we get stuck, it is for few transactions wherein, you know, we can still go into the detailing of it as to why it is not matching, and we can reconcile it. And it will definitely save a lot of time as discussed. Now, there are certain uncertain transactions, which one of it we have already seen. Now this is, okay. So there are two duplicate entries here, if you can see. One is on 20th April 23 and one is on 21st March 24. So if like there are many transactions like this, we find out that okay, this is a transaction which has been booked twice, and that is why the issue. And people would have even changed the dates, most probably that even dates would have been changed, or it would have been a rate difference. Yeah. So various kind of queries that come up are lined up in the uncertain transactions, and this is one depreciation entry that is being packed into uncertain transaction, but this doesn't affect my total details. So if I think I remove one of the transactions from here, which are the duplicate ones, I feel I will be able to match it. So yeah, if I try and remove this transaction, let's see. Yeah. Okay. So probably we were looking in the wrong place, and we have been able to reconcile all the transactions here. And still the status is showing here as reconciled because I have not gone individually and marked it as reconciled manually. But if we see the total of it, we are good to go here. My B2B details of invoices matches with the details of what is in the portal. I hope everybody is with me here. And similarly, if there are B2C transactions, then it will show me a total of what the transactions are, and we can reconcile each and every head that is to be reported in the table 4. Now all these sales related data goes in table 4, which can be matched. Okay, so once we are through the reconciliation, GSTR 1 reconciliation, this part can be exported in Excel, and we can then later on use to fill up our GSTR 9 data. So this is directly the figure that will be matching with my 1, matching with my 3B, matching with my books, and is good to go with my 9 also, because it is matching with the auto-populated 9. So within one screen, without going anywhere else, we have been able to reconcile the GSTR1 sales related data. Now I had to match only one transaction here, but considering that you are supposed to go only on the one screen and not see multiple things at a time, wherein we are not juggling with the returns that we have filed. So ideally, in ideal scenario, what we would have done prior is, we would have opened GSTR1 PDF, we would have opened GSTR3B PDF, we would have opened Tally, we would have opened the extracted Excel from which we have taken it from the Tally that we have extracted, and we would have opened, I think one more thing there was there, which I feel the 9 that we are auto-populated 9 that is coming. So if we have to reconcile between all these things and prepare a data, then definitely I feel we will get lost at major places. But if we are supposed to look at just one screen here and trying to reconcile only at one place, then I think though the number of uncertain transactions might be very high, and in a lot of places it can be even equivalent or little lesser to the number of transactions. But that can be because of two reasons. One, the masters are not set properly. So if there are 500, for example, if here there would have been 500 odd transactions in the uncertain transactions part, still I think reconciliation would not be transaction wise. It would have been that once we identify that, see, it gives a batch of issues, that for this there is a there are different kinds of issues, that it is not the masters has an issue. So if you are able to identify that master has an issue, and if you modify that one master itself, maybe 90 odd or 100 odd transactions would automatically get reconciled. So then you will not have to go back and deal with each transaction. So I would just suggest is, if you try to do it, and if you see कि अरे मैम ने तो सिर्फ एक ही ट्रांजैक्शन या दो ही ट्रांजैक्शन दिख रहे थे उनके अनसर्टन ट्रांजैक्शंस में, तो and when we are looking at it, it is getting almost 100, 500, even for that matter, even 1000 line items as a difference or uncertain transactions. But if you try and sort it out, maybe 500 of them might get cleared only with a change in master, and which might just change with just one change in one ledger, I suppose. Yeah, so if you are getting uncertain transactions, please don't go back to the original method of doing things. This is still going to be simpler, only if you stick to doing that and complete the process. So we have seen how we could reconcile GSTR1 related data, outward related data. Now, similarly for 2B, I have extracted the data for 2B as well. So here, if you can see, there are 2B related data here, that the earlier details when Puneet sir showed that this is the total of the transaction for the whole year. Now we are talking for the whole year. Earlier we were doing this month-wise, and this is going to be difficult to follow in the current year when we do it for 23-24, because we had not been using Tally for this purpose. But maybe when we are going to do it for the next year, from 24-25, when we start doing it on a monthly basis, maybe annual return might, in your case also, might get just like this, one uncertain transaction on maximum 5 to 10 uncertain transactions, because we have doing the similar kind of an exercise on a monthly basis for the same. Yeah, so here it is showing that the current period data is 372 and the other period data is 1, and there are 15 mismatched transactions, certain 72 transactions available only in book, and 77 transactions available on portal, and there is one transaction pertaining to the other period, and there is one uncertain transaction. Okay, so we try and get into the details of what is that other period transaction that we are looking at. Okay, so if we can see, here the effective date was selected as 1st April 2023, wherein the invoice date was selected as 1st March 2023. So most probably if we change the effective date for return filing as per 2B basis, it would get updated in the details. Okay, so I'll come back to this again. F12 or die. Yes. Yeah. Just give me a moment. I think that is gone and 423.
Friends, by the time she's configuring it, we have put up a small poll in the WhatsApp group. You can respond so that we can have more interaction when we are, completing her session.
Okay, so here, what I can see from here, that the transaction is dated 29th March 2024, and when I see the effective dates also, it is 29 3 2024 at all places. But still, when I'm trying to see at the annual return data, it is showing me that it is being reflected as a previous year transaction. Now, the most probable reason for that is that the transaction was copied from the previous year. If you can see, effective date is 2023, so it would have been copied and somewhere it is catching this date. So maybe in the transaction itself, if we try and identify, we will be able to resolve this issue. And here, like we can see, 458 transactions were in the books of accounts and 464 transactions have been uploaded from the portal. So we can identify two things from here. Either some things we have not claimed the credit for, or there are certain transactions for which entries has been pending yet. So even that can be identified through this return, and we don't have to do any kind of Excel related reconciliation for the same. Now there is one more feature that we can see in the annual computation report is the exceptions report. Now this exception report will show that how many transactions we have accepted, overridden like we did for the earlier one, and how many is accepted as per the format, and what is the expected mismatch wherein modified transactions. So it gives us a bird eye view for what transactions have been updated, or if it were not as per the format and it was only modified or overridden. So that also gives us a picture. Now there are few utilities that I would like you to see. One is GST rate setup here. So this report gives us a whole list of HSN-wise summary. Now one of my client had a query that they don't update details HSN-wise in Tally, because each invoice line item goes into 15-20 line items. So it is practically not possible for them to update the whole stock-wise data in Tally, and they have been using a separate invoice module to prepare the invoices, wherein they get a detailed transaction. But when it is uploaded in Tally, it only has one line item, or maybe they maintain it in the description, but it doesn't come. Now when I have to reconcile that data with the GST details, or prepare a transaction-wise list of sale transaction with HSN, how do we do that? Because when I export that sales register that I had showed earlier, it did not have an option to get transaction-wise details. So if we can go back to that, I'll show it to you, what I'm trying to say. Yeah, so once we do this columnar, so we will get here with the little change in columnar format, we can get a rate, quantity and rate details. Okay, wherein we can get item-wise details here, that what was the transaction here. But still Tally doesn't give me the HSN-wise details which I require to prepare an HSN summary. Now I reconciled it, my total matches, but what about the HSN summary that I am supposed to give? So one feature that we tried and get a mixed kind of a setup here is that we export these details in Excel and we export the report of HSN-wise details in Excel. The one which I showed here, GST rate setup. And through reconciliation, like if you could see there was an ABS stock there. So if we extract this Excel and if we are getting sales register, then we can take with the help of the stock item, because the stock item is going to be the common point, and because it is generated from the same system itself, it matches with the we can easily apply a VLOOKUP is what I want to say. So we can get the HSN details very quickly, and if the details are properly available, then GST returns itself, the annual computation return itself gives us a outward summary supplies. But because not all of us do everything by the T, and a lot of modifications are being done wherein our reports might not be the way it has to come in an ideal scenario. So this kind of a summary might not be directly possible, but an alternate way to it, we can extract the sales register, we can extract that summary of HSN and we can collate the data. So again, it saves time for us. Yes, sir.
There is one more way where we can get it. I'll show you.
Acha. Okay. Change view. Yeah, so this has related reports tab here, the one which has been showed earlier. that it shows which data has been pending, which has been filed from this details. So now if we are doing compliance from here, then it will give us a complete picture. If we are doing it from outside, then maybe this will not be the report that will give us a right kind of a picture. Okay. And then there is one more. Okay, so somebody asked about advances, that how we can record advances through GST details. So there is a whole process to it, but one thing I can say is through stat adjustments. So this stat adjustments helps us enable to book the advances and to reverse the advances in GST, in the tally itself. So when we extract this report of annual returns, where we are getting the details here as empty year, because this is a data relating to the goods, we will get those details as well for advances received and reversed during the year, which we mostly have to do it manually. But tally has a feature, but it is little detailed, and frankly I have used it for my clients, but if you ask me now, then I will have to go back a lot of steps to enable that process, but it is there. So it can definitely be done, and once we do it on a regular basis maybe, then it becomes permanent into this software, and you can use it. So it will give you a very ready kind of a picture wherein advances received is updated here, and whatever we are reversing will also be reflected here through this stat adjustment option in tally. Yes. Reversals. Stat adjustment के through होते हैं, correct. So that will not impact my books of accounts. मेरे बुक्स ऑफ अकाउंट्स में एडवांस का जो बैंक का एंट्री है कि पैसा आया तो मैंने एडवांस में डाला पार्टी के, विल नॉट बी अफेक्टेड, बट with the additional feature it only gets reflected in the returns the way it has to come. So जैसे सर ने बोला ITC के लिए, तो मैंने liability manually, it is like a manual adjustment that we are trying to do here, कि मैंने liability reduce कर ली मेरी रिटर्न्स के साथ मैच करने के लिए, बट मेरे बुक्स के साथ उसको इम्पैक्ट नहीं आएगा. इट विल नॉट इम्पैक्ट माई बुक्स ऑफ अकाउंट्स. Okay, so just give me a moment. Now validate GST related party details. Both the speakers earlier had taken this point, that how do we validate the party details. Now sir said that we have to do it while return filing, we have to do it while payment, and I would rather add we will have to do it while filing I-9 also, because at that point also some of the party would have maybe yes, and as somebody said that it could have been backdated. So from 1st April maybe that party was not there, but when we paid, when we checked at that point of time in September, the party was there, the registration was active, we included the details in the return, we filed it, so portal accepted it as B2B transaction or so, and then while making payment also when we checked it was active, but later on it got cancelled, backdated. So we can check that again when we are doing 99C, and we can check which date it was effective from. Yeah, so here if I do fetching details from the portal, so because it is 108 odd line items, it will take a little time. So now when we are filing the details here, we can just check that it is cancelled active, what is the status, and if it has changed from what we had done at that point in time, so we can check that. And if we want to go into much details, then we can even see the filing history here, and when the what is, now one had asked that can we get the basic details whether it is services or what. So if you can see the nature of business activity here, it reflects that it is a manufacturing or a factory concern. Likewise, I think we can check one more. Yeah, so here all the details as to what the party is doing gets reflected here. हाँ, डेट ऑफ कैंसिलेशन ये एक्टिव पार्टी है, लेकिन वो कैंसिलेशन, हाँ 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 हाँ. सो इसके जो भी एडिशनल प्लेस ऑफ बिजनेसेस है, दैट ऑल्सो इज बिंग रिफ्लेक्टेड. इनफैक्ट उसका जुरिस्डिक्शन कौन सा है एंड कंस्टिट्यूशन कौन सा है, पार्टनरशिप है, वो सब भी डिटेल्स यहाँ पे आ रहे हैं. Okay, and we can even see the creditors similarly. Now we can fetch the details for creditors as well. Paul. Yeah, so this transaction says that ये जो GST number है वो record portal पे available ही नहीं है for these three transactions. Others, out of 103, information is received for 100. Now because we have been doing this exercise for quite a long time, so you know it is just 3, maybe in other cases it can be little more also, but these 3 transactions are pertaining to the RCM supplier here, info not found, if we can see. But there are possibilities wherein, because purchase details are never verified anywhere, there can be chances wherein we have put the details and maybe it is wrong. There is a data entry for that GST number, which will get verified here when if it is not showing as per portal, means the GST that we have inserted in tally is not correct. F12? Yes. Okay, so if I basis of values, yeah, so inactive is the one which are the cancelled ones that we are getting here. So this, it can give you a filter on its own. Yes, so this I was not aware. Thank you. Yeah, so inactive, info not found. Yeah, so these 3 parties for which information was not there has been reflected here, and if you can see in all the 3 parties the GSTN number is same and it is wrong. So there are possibility that when it was updated, a common GSTN number was only used to put it and it is wrong. Yeah. So through that F12 feature, we are able to get other details as well. We will just try and explore that details. Assessee of other territory is yes, no. Now these are the ledger details that we are getting here. And your filing history will not be available because again the data is wrong. So the GSTN is not correct. Yeah, so we checked that details, and once we went out, it is again gone. So if we want to fetch again, we can fetch it and we can take it in Excel so that it helps us for future reference. Poll. Question. Yeah. So we can take actions for the cancelled ones, and we can see if they if we are actually eligible to take that credit or not, or we should be reversing at the time of filing 9. We can determine from this table here. Now create party using GST and has already been discussed earlier, so I'm not touching that part. And this mapping of UQC. So basically this really helps, like if you can see for kgs also it has been 2 different versions that has been picked up. So if we want to further streamline the stock and the HSN details, then we can just have this detail checked from here in a totality basis, and then we can modify the different kind of versions, like we use pieces, numbers interchangeably. So all that features can be streamlined, but it is only once when we are good to go with the other numbers. Before that, maybe it is difficult for all of us to get to that level. Okay, and there is one more feature here, the reports. Yeah, reverse charge liabilities. Okay, so here we are able to get a detail of how much reverse charge. Now again this data is only coming because while passing the entries and while creation of the ledgers, the tab, that party is a reverse charge party and we have to pay the liability in reverse charge was created, yes. So if I go to the details, you can see these transactions are quite normal. They are not, I mean they are not passed in any different way. Only thing we have done here is we have selected the right tabs. Like for transport charges, there are both ways, forward charge and reverse charge, as we are all aware. So we have, while selecting here, we have went into the details and said we want this party is a reverse charge party, and thus the data that is being calculated here goes into my reports properly. If I would just show you here, yeah, so it is, this is reverse charge calculation unable, but 1 minute, more details. Yeah, inventory value. Yeah, can you see here? So it was very much hidden. Even I myself had to search for a while where it had gone. But yeah, it is there. So because here we have selected at what rate the GST and under RCM had to be calculated, it has calculated. And it has even given me an option whether to say whether the credit is eligible or not. So only when we are looking at a cumulative data, again the base starts as to starting from the ledger, then from the master, then the ledger, and from ledger to the monthly reports, and from monthly reports to the annual report. So the whole part is that if we are able to do our monthly compliances from Tally, then definitely we can get these kind of reports for GSTR 9 and 9C from Tally. And our work gets little simpler. We save time on reconciliations that we have been doing manually. So all these transactions are purely RCM transactions, because here in this case we have only transporter related details. So only transporter RCM is being selected. Now if we have legal fees and if it is 18%, then even that would show. So irrespective of the voucher type that we have been selecting, if the ledger, expense ledger that we have selected is marked as RCM, yes, then my monthly returns will show me that this GST liability is to be paid under RCM, and my annual return will also show. Or else the other option is that we every time manually go and check if there is any legal fees in the expense ledger, or there is any transport charges on which GST is not charged. So that option still stays. But if we find out even one transaction while doing so, and at that particular time only if we are updating it to RCMAS, then maybe from further transactions it will reflect properly here. So one thing I wanted to show here was bifurcation of details in 1 minute, I think, annual computation, bifurcation of ITC in goods, services and others, in services, goods and capital goods. So if we can see now, as everyone is aware that we are supposed to report ITC breakup into the GSTR 9. It goes as in goods, input of goods here, yeah. If you can see, this is a similar kind of a version which goes in our GSTR 9. It has input, normal inputs, capital goods and services. Now again this bifurcation is coming here because we have selected certain data when we have updated the data accordingly. Now when we are creating the ledger, for example, if I am looking at the ledger here, then what we do is, there is an option of type of supply. We usually tend to ignore this option, and whatever it is, we just accept it and move forward. We don't see that, and again when we are going at 9, then we say Tally doesn't give us the right picture. But when you are seeing the whole computation, but when you don't put in the details here, definitely it will not get reflected in the said report, until and unless when we have selected this option correctly here. Hello sir. Yeah. So if we have put this bifurcation here properly, then only it gets reflected into our details here properly. Yeah, so if you are able to see this, it is only because when the ledger was created, it was created under proper headings. So I have rushed like a train, it seems to me. So is there any question which you all want to ask me? I'm still yet to show few things, but majority of the things I have covered by now. So if you all want to ask me anything relating to GSTR 9 related data from Tally, or any practical challenges that you all have faced. Change view? Yeah. GST portal, yeah. I can show that as well. Yeah, open GST portal option is also there from here. So we can directly go to the GST portal. We need not search that in the tab. Okay. Yeah, so if we want to extract this whole thing, it comes in the Excel format. Yeah. Yeah, I'll take that part. Okay, so before that, one question was asked in the poll, whether Tally allows to create multiple address for a single ledger or not. So 12 of them have said yes, we can do it, and some of them have, 13 people have said that not aware, please show karke. We have selected not aware option. So I think that sir, you can show that part here. Then Yeah, we come to the next question after that. Okay. Yeah, so yehi, yeah, so once we see this that we have extracted this data in Excel, and now we can even use these figures directly for the format that we are using for tally for GSTR 9 and 9C workings. We can directly take it from here, or this can also be a base for our computation. Okay. Now I'll go back to my PPT. Yeah. Hmm? QR code. Okay, sure. Just give me a moment. नहीं नहीं हाँ वो मेरे को एक मिनट नहीं डाउनलोडेड ही है एक सेकेंड टुडे 6:30 अभी का ही है आज का ही है नहीं नहीं आज का टुडे मैसेज है या नहीं है लिंक्ड या Okay, so I would again like to go back to the slides where we discuss what type of data that we require to be preparing. And we can see that a lot of things we did it from the tally itself once we started using tally correctly. Like books of accounts, yes, it is tally and it is in tally. Then summary of all GSTR1 filed. So if we can see from here that once if we are getting this kind of a detail and it is reconciled with our portal, then we get this summary directly from here and we are not supposed to go anywhere else, which otherwise we would have manually either prepared or we would have reconciled through Excel. Then summary of all GSTR 3B filed, again the details come from here. If we have done this reconciliation properly, then it directly matches with the portal and it is available in the same screen itself. This is obviously, it is always going to be separately downloaded, so nothing much about it. Summary and monthly summary of outward and inward supplies. Again, the same kind of data can be available from tally. We need not go anywhere. Even RCM details. Now, even for ineligible ITC, once we selected the option there, whether it is to be eligible or not, then that kind of a detail can be available also from the tally itself. Then somebody asked me for transactions relating to the current year. If we have booked the invoice on 31st March, for example, and we have claimed the credit for it in the next year, 24-25, for whatever reason, so to say. Yeah. So for that, the most simplest solution is the transaction is obviously going to stay on 31st March 2024. It is not going to be moved somewhere else because obviously my books of accounts and bills and everything pertaining to 2024. when we select the effective date of claiming the credit, uh, when we book the transaction, when we claim the credit, at that point of time, if we have marked that the in effective date, for example, I'll just show it to you, it will be much easier for me. Yeah, here if we say certain one party transaction, for example this bill, we say that this invoice, I will take one pertaining to 31st March itself. Okay, there's no transaction on 31st March. Yeah. So if we say that this is booked on 1st of March 2024, but I claim the credit of it in the month of April for whatever reasons. So if I set effective date here as 1st April 24 for my 3B. Okay, 2B also it was reflecting on 1st March. 2A also it was reflecting on 1st March. But if I set here as 1st April 2024, then when I am going for my annual return, it will show me in that tab. We'll just try and see if it is reflecting there. See, if you can see here, it is reflecting move to other return periods. So then from here we are able to identify that though it was pertaining to the 31st of March, it has been claimed in the month of, not in the month of March. Yeah. So from here we can get that details and we can update it in our respective place in the GSTR 9C and 9. Is it okay? Should I move forward? Yeah. So for advances also, as I said, that for advances also there is a whole mechanism, and advances taken and adjusted can be taken from here. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I mean, after my whole Tally Prime demo, I don't think I have to discuss this slide in great length, that why use Tally Prime for GSTR 9 and 9C reconciliations. It helps us extracting the data, as we know. It helps us do various reconciliations, as we practically saw. GSTR 1, then RCM liability with books and returns, then advances also can be reconciled. GSTR 2B also can be reconciled. Validation of party GSTN can also be done. So this is already covered, and yeah. Yeah, so what if we don't file GSTR 99C? I'm sure this everybody is aware that if we don't file it, we are supposed to pay late fees for GSTR 99C, which is on a per day basis or on a aggregate turnover basis. So not much to discuss here, but if we are not able to put the right kind of a data in GSTR 99C, then it can attract such types of notices from the department. So a lot of people ask, like many of your clients would have asked you all, and we all have faced such questions. Why charging for GSTR 99C? When you are doing my accounts, when you are filing returns, my returns on monthly basis, then what is the need for charging extra for GSTR 99C? Correct? So when people ask you, so tell them that, see, if you don't file it properly, that this is what you are going to face. And if you are wanting us to go for getting a notice and then reply and then charge, is a different story altogether. But if we are able to mitigate either at least some of these notices, then definitely it helps us. So yeah, the whole purpose of doing this is that we can avoid and majority of the notices are based on 99C details that we put. And a lot of times it has happened that just because of small errors also, they have created liabilities and they have given us notices. So in order, now one thing is that making our client realize about it, but one thing is that we have to make our employee